Welcome to the Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show I have a talk about Linux project, such as a distribution, desktop environment, or application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics, anything from the community that is, Linux tech, open source related. It's on the table for discussion. Somebody's got to silence their phone, and that person is me. I apologize for being a jerk. I'm Nate, Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession and slightly rude. With me today, I've got a fantastic panel of people. I've got Eris, Dale of Low Tech Linux fame, Seeker, Ben, Mike Chilson, who is our resident programmer extraordinaire. Got Jinda and Eric, who basically knows everything. So like if I ever have a question, I say, Eric, and Eric says the answer. So basically, you can use AI or you can use real I and go to Eric. Not to wax you too much, but anyway, how is everybody?
Good. You?
Having a wonderful day.
Doing great.
Fantastic. I think today's like the last official day of summer, if I'm not mistaken. Is it? Do we know?
Yep.
When does the time change? It's soon, right?
October sometime. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm.
But if you could be so kind as to, hit that like button or the dislike button if you don't like the show. So subscribe would be pretty cool too. Join the chat here on the, not just the chat in the chat, but chat on the Zoom. Lend your voice to the conversation. That would be pretty darn cool. Also, be sure to do the straw poll if you have not done so already. A poll about Garuda Linux. If you didn't have time for it, or if you want to give Tux Penguin a vote, that's cool too. So on the docket for today, we're going to talk about that straw poll about Garuda Linux. Kind of dig into Garuda Linux, like what our experiences were. I don't know. I'm not a grammar expert. I'm not a doctor. Talk about that. We're going to have do a community free pour in there as well, and if there's some time between, maybe some news and whatnot. But first, what I've been doing in Linux and tech, since I don't have anyone just jump up and down, I wanted to talk about some things that I've been doing, some 3D printing adventures. Yes, Jinda is the man. He knows everything. He can also, instead of Google, you can also Jinda too. But so I do talk about I'm a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession, all that jazz. Well, I never actually talk about the fitness stuff, but I do. Working out is something I really enjoy doing. It kind of keeps my head clear, kind of keeps me centered, whatever. I'm sure there's other terms for that, but anyway. So I got this power rack thing. It's usually you see it behind me when I'm in my lab, and when I got it, I had a lot of extra little parts, and they'd always be on the floor, and I didn't really like that. So I started designing and printing some pieces to keep things up off the floor, like for my my dip bars. Oh, and by the way, it also takes the Olympic size weights. And if you ever go to a gym, you'll see the hit that the larger holes of the weights, the Olympic class or whatever. The smaller ones are, I don't know what class those are, maybe high school. I don't know, but you usually see Olympic in high school. But anyway, elementary. Or maybe Mount Rainier instead of Olympic. It doesn't matter. So I designed some parts and pieces so I can hold like my my dip bars just on the back verticals, and then the squat safety bars instead of those being on the floor, so I can hang those on there as well. And then also started creating little hooks for the plates. I'm gonna put my notes plants, but that's really weird. Plates, so I can actually, instead of setting it when I take the plates off the side, setting them on the floor, I'm going to put little hooks, basically little whatever for the plates. And I'm printing it all in PETG, and I was a little worried about is it going to be strong enough? And I didn't want to do 100% infill because that would just take forever. So I think 35% or 40%, something like that's what I'm doing. And it actually works really well. I had to go through a couple design iterations to get it to print well and everything else, and how to orient it to actually get good results. So I got all that dialed in, got the support, printing the supports appropriate for whichever ones. And also keeping in mind that when, I don't know if anyone here does who does 3D printing here, who has dabbled with it, but when you're printing, it goes layer by layer by layer. And so it's weak across those layers. So if you have a a portion of it that is going to require more strength, you want to have it go laterally across. So I'm making sure that anything that has like weight, like actual weight bearing, that's going to hold a lot of weight, I do make sure I have the print as such that the weight is going across the laminations, not the same direction as the laminations. Does that make any sense? What I'm saying there, or do I sound like I'm? It probably makes
No, it
sense.
makes 100% sense to me, but
so you don't get that. You don't shear off between the layers. Essentially, is what it boils down to. Anyway, I'm really happy with the results on this. It's really kind of cleaned up my spots. I'm not have things on the floor, so like it's easier to sweep. If that makes any sense. Vacuum, and then I've also got like another Olympic bar, but like a curling bar, kind of looks like a weird W basically. And so I want to have a place to put that. So I replicated some of the geometry from the other side that has a spot for an Olympic bar and for weights, and I'm just for the Olympic bar on the other side. Just to hold it up. So Sean says, you may get some creep with standard PETG under load over time. Fiber filled would add some stiffness and decrease the creep. Well, if it does creep, then I guess I'll have to do something about that. But I mean, it's not bearing a lot of weight. I mean, we're talking at the high end, 25 pounds maybe for one of them, maybe 35 if I'm really pushing it. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. That's good to know. If it does creep, then I'll get something a little bit stronger. Also, I don't know. I didn't know that PETG creeped. So I guess what would you recommend for the infill, or for the so what kind of fiber filled? I don't know. I wonder what you would choose. I've seen carbon fiber. I wonder if that's any better. But anyway, so last thing I designed a little bit early this morning was just another foot out of, so they can print out of the TPU 95A stuff, just so it kind of looks like the rest of it. So I guess we'll see. If it creeps too much, I can always get the right material. But anyway, I really like 3D printers. I find that they're just, if you can with my minimal design abilities, and a 3D printer, it's really a lot of fun. I know, like years ago, Eric, when we were doing DLN Extend, we talked about CAD on Linux not being very good, essentially, or not being to the exactly what I want. Maybe I should put it like that, because there's good CAD, it's just not good for me CAD. And now that we're there and I got all the things that I want, it's close to what I want anyway. It's definitely freeing, I guess, to be able to just kind of sort of do what you want with tech. So anyway, love 3D printers, being able to do all these different things. It's just been great. So anyway, so those are my tech adventures. I don't know if I have anything to say on that, or if that's pretty much a nobody cares.
No, I love listening to people talk about the kind of stuff they make with 3D printing, because it still, I know it's not a new thing technically anymore, but I think the accessibility of it is, the idea that you can buy a ready-made printer for much less than you could, you can really do some pretty amazing things with fairly modest, equipment.
Yeah.
There's enough like free designs out there now where, a lot of the things that you might have had to do yourself in terms of the CAD, instead of starting from scratch, you can take an existing diagram or object and do things that, adjust it as you need to. I mean, just the idea of being able to create in a 3D, a 3D object that is it could be artistic, it could be just creative, but a lot of times it's useful. You create a bracket for something, a hanger, a hook, that kind of stuff is just, it's really cool. So I haven't taken the plunge, but it's just, like I said, I think it just keeps getting easier and easier. There are fewer roadblocks or things in the way of being able to get started if you want to. And I'd like to believe that if I had one, I would use it. But I would hate to think that if I did get one, I wouldn't, and it would just sort of sit, and not be something I used. So I think at first I would probably kind of find things to do with it, but then I would hopefully figure out like a way to use it to, better my life. And if my
Sure.
daughter complained about, oh, this isn't, I don't know, I want to be able to hang something here. Okay, cool. I can, So, I mean, and that's what I always find interesting is just talking to people about, well, how do you use yours and what do you do with it? And so,
Well, for what it's worth, I needed shelf pin holders like in my kitchen because like one of the plastic shelf things that broke, and so everything just kind of went whoop, And actually, I pushed it toward the back so it wouldn't do that. But anyway, what I did is I just took one of the other ones out, and then I just took the dimensions off it. I modeled it up real quick and I printed it, and then I solved my problem that night. It took like 30 minutes to do. I didn't know what to look for on to buying a replacement, but I now I know better. I could probably just buy a replacement, but anyway. So things like that I think are really cool if you know how to, when you have to fix a thing or replace a part. There's something recently that I can't remember what it was exactly, but I was like racking my head, like how can I make a thing to be able to do this? And I was thinking what I can buy at the store. I go, I'll just design it and print it, and then there we go. Then I solved my problem. And things like that are just a lot of fun. I don't know. It's a little thing.
well, I think you like vintage tech and stuff too, where getting parts could be difficult. And so the idea of being able to, fabricate your own parts for old tech, or like in the case of building your daughter that computer, like it's really, you're just limited by your imagination. And that's another thing that's kind of fascinating to me is like, if you have a limit on the size you can print, how do you make it so that you can either do it in pieces and then glue it or fasten it together? And the whole concept of being able to fabricate your own stuff is super cool. And then the materials, and like you said, not knowing that something squeaks, like I would just be endlessly fascinating to, just to play with,
For what it's worth, most of my designs I just publish on the interwebs, and I'm working on want to get this weight rack stuff done. I don't know how useful it's going to be. There's probably all of the number of people who have the same weight rack and have a 3D printer are probably very, very exceedingly small cross section of people. So I don't know that it'll be downloaded, but I'm surprised by the number of nonsense of mine that actually gets downloaded. I get notifications every time it gets downloaded. I'm like, really? So one of that? That's funny. From everything from like safety glasses holders that I've screwed to a shoe rack basically in my kitchen for like safety glasses or sunglasses, and then just it's like, really, someone wanted that? Huh, that's weird. Or also like if you have I do like Gridfinity stuff. I was like where I have everything kind of sits in these little grids, and I can't remember the guy's name offhand. He's kind of an eccentric YouTuber that does a lot of design work, that like neat things. But anyway, so this is something that already existed, and then I just designed kind of this little inner piece here so that these screwdrivers would sit like I wanted. And I'm amazed by the number of these that have been downloaded by people. So, but yeah.
Do you upload your stuff to like Thingiverse, or is there another one? Or
Thingiverse, the printables, and then also Cult 3D. It's all the same.
Printables.
Thingiverse, everything syncs to Thingiverse, basically.
Gotcha.
Yep. If you look up Cubicle Nate, be like, huh, why is that even up there? Oh, look, there's like an old, like it was an extended battery holder modified for Samsung S6, I think. It's like the last one with the removable battery. And so I need a case for it. And there's no cases for it. So I designed a case. And like in the last year, somebody downloaded that, which I thought was pretty wild. So, Mike, you said you use a resin printer? I'm sorry.
Oh, good. No, I was just going to say, someone had shown me a Autodesk tool that I think is just web-based. It's like a simple version of CAD.
So they have Fusion 360.
Okay.
That's one. I was having trouble with it on Linux. I mean, it works sometimes, but sometimes it just doesn't work. I don't know what the deal was, but Zach Friedman, that's it. Sean, the Gridfinity designer. Zach Friedman, yeah. Neat guy. Anyway, yeah, he's the one that designed that, and I've been Gridfinity up everything pretty much. So yeah, but yeah, the Fusion 360 is a good one. I use Onshape.
Tinkercad. That's the one that
Tinkercad's
someone
another
had
good one too.
mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that looked
Onshape,
like one that even I could use.
yeah.
Really.
So I like Onshape because it fits with it's owned by PTC, and when I did for a previous employer, when I did CAD work for that company, I used Pro Engineer, or later called Creo or Wildfire, then Creo or something like that. Anyway, the Wildfire. Anyway, that Onshape is very much like that, and so it works well for me. I don't know if it would work for everybody, but it's pretty close to what I like. It misses some of the mathematical smarts that you can put into a model, or like inheritance modeling. They can't do that, which is unfortunate. But because if you design like a skeleton of something that kind of gives all your interfaces, and then you design the actual model around the skeleton, then you can change that skeleton, and every model that has that core skeleton will adjust accordingly, which is very cool for production designing, or designing for production, because you can make one minor change, you want everything to reflect that in a larger assembly. But anyway, but it has a lot of really good tools for checking for interference, and I think the assembly is something a little bit not my favorite, but it works. So anyway, it's good times. I mean, if into that sort of thing, I suppose. So anyway, I'll be publishing a bunch of stuff here probably the next week or so.
You've been really cranking out the articles on cubiclenate.com too.
Just a few lately. Not like I didn't do much for a while, but I put quite a few out there. So anytime I do something, I try and publish an article on it.
It feels like it, at least. Like I feel like I've gotten at least one a week recently, maybe even two.
That might be accurate. I didn't do one this past week, I don't think.
I think it is accurate. Anyway, and it's all interesting stuff to read. So
yeah, it was surprised at the
like
feedback on the check if your password's been compromised. It was basically I had some stuff in my bunch of tabs open, some stuff in my notes. I thought, you know what? People always ask me about cybersecurity stuff. I'm like, well, there's some simple things you can do. Check and see if things are how things are. But then someone did reply saying, well, if you put your password in that, does it mean you just put your password out there? And I suppose, but I think it all happens. It happens locally. It doesn't actually happen out on the website. So, or it doesn't happen out there. It happens locally. But it's neat to see, like, if you've had, if you've been, your email's been a part of any data breaches. And if it has, then what you can do to, test, or what you can do about it. So, like, Thingiverse was compromised, and so me at cubiclenate.com is in a password breach. So poor me, I guess.
I wonder if there's anyone left in the world that hasn't been part. Well, okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but anyone left, let's say in the United States, maybe, that hasn't been part of a password breach at this point. They're all like 300 million email addresses, and like, yeah.
I think my son hasn't. The one that doesn't have the one that doesn't have an email address.
Yeah, there you go. Good point.
What if you can check social security numbers too? Probably.
You know what? I have a feeling just everything is out there. And what I've seen lately is that they're starting to do a better job of collating different sources. Mm-hmm. So they're getting disparate data dumps from, various companies, and now they're starting to combine them, collate them, and then sell them on the black market. So, hey, all of you people that need that data, you're getting a better product, I suppose.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
It's good times.
It is good times, yes.
So speaking of good times, I think we should probably get to that straw poll. Eris, you put out a straw poll on how people are doing with their Garuda.
Garuda Linux.
Yep.
I got a few replies in case anybody wants to vote one last time. First reply, I migrated to Garuda Linux from Arco Linux recently, and my experience has been great. They have a lot of nice curation and ongoing development of their own tools, which helps to make running an Arch-based distro, a very smooth experience. I will look forward to listening to this show. Can't tune in live anymore, but I listen later when I can. I love the distro explorations. And then somebody else said, well, I answered this based on my one Plasma VM that I did install, and it was cool. Look good with nice tools. Their Hyperland image is usually broken though. Maybe it works on hardware, but QEMU was a no-go. And the final reply was, I tried it once and the menus were so unbelievably laggy. It was unusable. LMAO. Um, as far as the results, one last time refresh. The number one uh number one option was Tux Penguin for Garuda Linux. Uh followed by okay, somebody voted. So it is good with 20%. Tux Penguin tied with 20%. It is amazing, 15%. It is okay, 15%. Did not have a good time with it, 10%. Not interested in exploration, 5%. 5% didn't have enough time, 5%. Not interested in doing explorations in general, and 5% other. So what is everybody else's experience?
I haven't recently used it, so I'm actually going to download it and just do a install while while we're talking. I used it in the past and I thought it was pretty good. So
I installed it a couple days ago, and I really enjoyed the how they had the what is it, the splash screen, so to speak. What's the real
The
name for
welcome
one of
screen.
those? Welcome screen, yeah. The welcome
Yeah.
screen was
Which
really.
version did you download?
I downloaded the XFC edition.
Mhm.
Okay.
Same here.
Yeah, the reason why is because I have XFCE and I wanted something to say, oh, I want to compare it to it.
Yeah.
And that they went out of their way to make that welcome screen. I think,
Yeah.
well, I don't want to say over the top because that may say I'm being negative in a way, but to me it was over the top. It was great. I don't know if you guys liked it, but I did.
so
It was pretty
so
good.
over the top in a good way then.
Oh yeah, definitely over the top in a good way. I couldn't no bad things to say. I did have an issue with it though, which I thought was not so good. I went in there and I wanted to install a firewall.
Mhm.
For the life of me, I can't get that to work. All I did was click the little buttons that say you want to put a firewall in, and it crashed and burned.
I didn't actually mess with that part of it because I'm using it on a VM, which is sitting behind the firewall on my laptop, and also behind the firewall in my house too. So it's kind of like I don't need a third firewall, but we can get into some of that later. But I thought it was really good. I mean, I don't know if I'd say great necessarily, but I'd definitely say like the overall experience I thought was really good. They got the and I think we'll get into that part of it, but I guess let's go ahead and maybe get into the exploration discussion of this. So we do have some rules about how we do Linux distribution explorations. And the intent is to talk about the different aspects of the operating system and discuss our experiences from using it. So it's a discussion that should be objective and constructive. So let's try and keep non-objective things about it out, which I can be guilty of that. So that's your license to tell me to, hey, back off there, buddy. So we're trying to make it a beneficial conversation. The point is to highlight the positives and not ignore the lowlights of the projects. Remember, this is a labor of love for some, so let's not poo-poo on it. So a little bit about Garuda Linux. So it's a rolling release distribution built on Arch, but with a user-friendly for power users sort of a feel to it. So it was launched in 2020. It's exploded in popularity for gaming and the visual flair. So it's named after the mythical eagle from the Hindu lore, Garuda. Am I saying it right? Is it Garuda? Is that how you're supposed to say it?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Garuda.
It looks cool. I like the eagle, but I'm a fan of birds. Birds are strange things. So it's at its core, it's built on Arch. So that means, bleeding edge packages via the Pacman with PacMac GUI or for Snap and Flatpak AUR support, yada yada. It's rolling like Arch, but Garuda Assistant Wizard handles mirrors, caching, cleaning, and repo tweaks in one click way, more polished than raw Pacman sessions. At least that's the claim, anyway. So the file system uses Snapper, and I think Snapper is kind of a magical thing. So it defaults to Btrfs with compression and easy snapshots, but their star is the Snapper integration. So they swapped it from Timeshift around 2021. It's not just enable it; it's baked right into the bootloader, so you can boot into Garuda snapshots, a menu to roll back in seconds after a bad update, and Garuda Assistant for GUI management. So that, I think, is super cool. I'll get into my little, because I'm comparing this basically to Tumbleweed. So as an aside, it's like Tumbleweed's Snapper. It felt very similar, but I would say with more attractive looking tools. I normally just use the Snapper tools right in the terminal, but like Tumbleweed, it's got auto pruning to save space, which I don't know if Timeshift has that baked in or not. I don't know. I didn't really research that out. It has a deeper Btrfs ties, the CLI and GUI harmony and community extensions and custom timelines. So I thought it was pretty cool. In fact, I would say if I maybe use a tool that's baked into Yast, so I would say it's a little bit better. It's more intuitive.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, you froze, Nate. You froze for like 6 seconds.
For once, it wasn't me. I thought it
Wasn't
was me.
mine.
What's the last thing I said?
You were about to say something bad about Tumbleweed and it froze up on you.
Oh, that's not what happened.
That's exactly what happened.
No, what I was going to say is it just has the Snapper feature in this. It's the same base. It's built on the same thing that Tumbleweed uses, essentially. I don't know if the timing is different, but it has a nice GUI for actually adjusting things the way you want it. A little bit more in your face than the options built into Tumbleweed. So I thought it was pretty awesome. So I like that a lot. Now it's not like something I would go so far as to say I want to have that over. I don't think I'd be gaining anything with those tools necessarily. I just happen to like them. I thought they were neat. So as far as the looks, it's now built on. It's now on 6.4.4. You have, I think, for a couple of different KDE styles. You have on this Garuda Mocha and this Garuda Dragonize. I think it's supposed to be called DR460. Is that supposed to be Dragonize? Somebody know?
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's like it has a very I would say
Neon.
distinct look that
Yes.
even they say could be too much for people.
Yes, I could say that. Well, if you have like a third-party application that throws its icon in there, then it just kind of sticks out, which may be a good thing. I don't know. So it's a lot of glowing accents, but it's a smooth animation, zero config hassle. So they have a GNOME XFCE Hyperland distributions as well. And then recent Broadwing release. Has anybody... I probably should have checked that out because I don't even know what that is. They have a Garuda Nix subsystem, Garuda Cosmic. I didn't try those out. A KDE Lite, don't know what that even means, but here we are.
The Nix system is installed within the other versions. So you have to have the other version installed, and then within the system, there's an option there to install that subsystem or something.
Interesting. I imagine could probably do just an automatic way of doing it as opposed to, because I'm sure you could activate that on your own, right?
It's a setting, I think, somewhere where it lets you do that.
So the plug and play gorgeous things they got going on is toggleable, so you can turn that off if you want. So there's some performance perks with it. Got the Zen kernel for low latency gaming, zRAM for RAM compression. So you can literally download more RAM, I guess, by using that, I suppose. That's so dumb, but I like it.
Well, almost, because people did have used Google Drive as extra RAM, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, there was somebody. It wasn't very fast, but yeah, you could have used your Google Drive as RAM. I don't think that's in the terms of service, but somebody did accomplish that.
Well, good on them for doing that because that's pretty neat. The latest update has some Mesa graphics glitch tweaks, so that's something kind of cool, I guess. So it has a gamer edge to this. It's built for Steam Proton out of the gate with Fire Dragon, which is a privacy-focused Firefox fork, and Dolphin tweaks. It's Arch without the pain, but you know, you may still have occasional rolling hiccups, but that's what Snapper's for. So I think it really feels like a real product when it comes to a distribution. It seems like they've really thought about a lot of it. I'm not necessarily. It has its rough edges, but it's got a full ecosystem forum, GitLabs for tools, constant new ISOs. The community is pretty tight knit, and it's a MIT licensed open source. It's a fun what if for Butterfest fans. So similar snapshot safety as Tumbleweed with Arch packages. So you know, still got the bit of a gamble there, but you know, at least they got that. And it's unique visual pop. So there are some downsides. It is heavy on resources for those visual aesthetics. It does have, you know, the Arch repositories do have some breakage from time to time, but they've mitigated it. So if you boot the live ISO, you can poke at the Garuda assistant, which is, you know, it's pretty cool. So anyway,
It seems like a lot has happened since we last covered this.
yeah, it's not the same Garuda as I mean, the Dragon Eyes one looks about the same. Looks the same, but this is a whole new bailiwick of fun, I would say.
If I remember correctly, which I don't know if they still do, but they used to patch, like have their own patches to Arch.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this is not like, let's say, Endeavor, because Endeavor tries to be as close as possible to Arch. I think they patch their distro sometimes.
I didn't read that, but I mean, I have no reason to doubt that. It seems like that makes sense because they're doing some interesting things in the back end. So it seems like you'd almost have to patch Arch to get that to work. So I see Jay Horton says, I think it's really bad that Garuda only supports Butterfs and not ext4. I use /home as ext4 because I change distros from time to time. Although I'm currently using Max Linux, Garuda would support ext4. I'm pretty sure you can just, I mean, it will support ext4, just you won't have the snapshotting with that. So, I don't know. Let's see.
Zoe Ronan says that Garuda started as a project named Manjaro Wish by a developer and a graphic designer. Not gonna say names or usernames here, but you can see who they are in the About page.
Oh. About Us. Nico? I don't know. That is pretty cool. So for those of you that installed it, or if you've installed it in the past, what would you say? Did anybody have any issues installing it?
I wish it would tell you that you need to have UFI enabled.
It complains, but it still lets you.
It
Yeah.
does?
It did complain for me.
Yeah, because I didn't enable UFI and it booted. I mean, it said, you know, warning, this is not an approved bootload or whatever. But
because I reinstalled afterwards. I didn't know it was gonna let you through. Yeah. So
I think it's interesting that it's like Manjaro, where it lets you choose your time zone as part of the boot process, and then yeah, you can select which drivers you're using, and so it's kind of a modified boot setup, just kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it's like a major deal, but I mean, Manjaro's I think the only other one I've ever seen do that.
Would you say Manjaro-ish? Is that what someone said? Yeah. Okay.
Oh
Yeah,
wow,
the
this start screen is definitely different. Yeah, that's pretty wild.
well, I like
So
what I like is their welcome screen is more than a welcome screen. It's basically a this is how you do everything screen, essentially, aside from customizing your desktop experience.
Yeah,
Sort of.
they're calling it Rani or Rainy, R-A-N-I.
Yep.
Oh, see, I just got that same message because I didn't choose UEFI. It's not booted in UEFI, but in BIOS CMS unsupported mode. But it does let me continue if I want.
So with Vert Manager, for anybody who has that issue, I use the UEFI version that says 4M at the end. There's like different versions.
Not just the regular one.
Yeah, it's like the one that has 4M at the end for the UEFI versions, as one of the options. That's why I got that working with the UEFI.
Oh, if you pick the regular UEFI, it didn't work?
Yeah, because there's a drop down that
Oh.
says UEFI. There's like 5 or 6 versions, something.
Yes, I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, the one that 4M that one works.
Huh. Okay.
You know, I once knew where that was. Where do you actually go and alter that?
You check the box when you're creating a new machine to
Customize.
set up the options before you boot, and then it lets you choose it then. I don't know if you can change it after you've set up the machine, though.
It won't let you, I think. It will now let you. Maybe you can mess with the XML directly, but I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, you have to check that box that says configure or something before booting or something. There's
Yeah,
a
it's
little
like
checkbox.
Customize configuration before install.
Yeah, and
yeah.
then it pops up there, and then you can switch the to UEFI if you have a BIOS automatically.
Oh, I see. Okay. The boot options. Nope.
It's there's like a drop down there, and there's like the one that says
Oh,
4M at the
firmware.
end. Yeah.
Hmm. Well,
Okay.
I mean, it's nice to see that they're doing things like they're continuing to add new features. And because I mean, at the end of the day, I don't mean this to be offensive or anything, but these
Oh, I'm
types of
so offended.
distributions, well, you might be. These types of distributions are really more or less glorified installers in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm not saying they don't also bring utility in terms of like having tools to help you select mirrors and kernels and like different things that you'd have to do more or less manually. But at the end of the day, it is just a way to get Arch onto your system and then give you some shortcuts and tools to manage your system. So many of them are pretty minimal in terms of what they do. But I don't know. I kind of like the ones that you just download one system, like Endeavor, and then choose the desktop you want just from that one ISO instead of multiple
Different
distinct
versions.
ISOs. Yeah, yeah.
Like
Because I
Debian
just liked
does.
having one download. Yeah, because then I'd have one download that I can just
OpenSUSE.
say, okay, on this machine I want to do. Yeah. So I wouldn't know anything about OpenSUSE.
I noticed. So I can understand that. I go both ways on that because I kind of like when me personally I don't think I don't necessarily like to choose. I wouldn't want to choose an opinionated distribution for myself because I like kind of picking and choosing my components, largely. But I
Mhm.
like the opinionated distributions for exploration's sake because it's kind of like an art form, I think, and I'm sure I've said this many times before, but it's a technical art form. You get to actually see what people how they want to view the desktop or view the experience. So I think that's kind of cool. I don't know that if I were to build an opinionated distribution for myself to share with others, I'm sure that I would have an audience of maybe one me. So it really wouldn't.
Well, do you still use your customized theme?
Yeah,
Your customized KDE theme? Okay.
I do. Yeah, I think I need to update a little bit to match the newer Plasma Breeze look. It's
Mhm.
close, but they changed some of the contrasts, and so I just want to
Hey,
change it just to change it.
OpenSUSE Tumbleweed Cubicle Nate Edition. I can see it.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe use
More
Milo.
green
Like,
this time. That
yeah,
should be
more
the
green.
tagline. More green this.
I think green's great.
What's that,
Uh,
Ers?
I said it should be the tagline. More green this time.
Even more green.
well, I wouldn't call myself a tree hugger, but I really like being in nature. So I think the green kind of fits my, being out in the woods. Or
I agree with you on the distribution as a creative exercise and the idea that inherently people using Linux tend to, not exclusively or completely, I guess, but a lot of people like Linux simply because you can do so many things visually and, and change things around, given that other systems are either nearly impossible or make it very difficult to do.
Mhm.
So having a distribution provide you with a bespoke experience is, it's kind of part of that creative expression. And I think the people who have a problem with that maybe are really more experienced people who want things to be like starting at a vanilla base and then do the very specific tweaks that they like to make. Because I feel that way sometimes where if I download something like Manjaro is a good example where they kind of all of their desktops are very highly customized. And if I don't like what they've done, then I feel like I have to undo that before I do what I want to do. So, but if you didn't know what Plasma, was supposed to look like, or, you download something like Manjaro and have this all very cohesive experience, and I think that adds a lot to the overall sort of, I don't know, what you're getting out of a distribution. Plus, at this point, we're getting to the point where like we're using flat packs, and it's becoming less and less about the distribution, at least from the standpoint of like the system, the underlying system, or availability of software, let's say. And so a distribution is now more about maybe how it looks or what things you install by default. So
that's a really good point as far as like what is. I mean, even all the not all, a lot of distributions use the Calamares installer, so the installation experience is actually pretty similar from one distribution to another. And yeah, as far as like flat packs now, it's like, a couple of years ago, the question would be, could you get your applications on the distribution? Now it's kind of like, well, yeah, there's Flatpak, or yeah, there's snaps or app images for the win, whatever. And so that's almost like a non-issue anymore. Like the application availability is kind of like let's say like a really esoteric edge case distribution, but I think those don't seem very common anymore. And they still probably use Flatpak in there because it's baked into Linux essentially. So yeah, I don't know. So I guess what are the distinguishing features of one Linux distribution to another?
I don't know
Yeah.
if this is still the case, but I think the Dragon browser, what is it called, the Fire Dragon browser, this
Mhm.
is their own project where they try to build in like more privacy and like better performance. Usually I don't like these things personally because I like being at like the highest possible version. This version of the browser that I have on Garuda is supposedly based on version 142 of Firefox, and the current version of Firefox and Flatpak is 143.0.1, and even LibreOffice is on 143. But this is like a custom version that they make of Firefox. This is not just just a Firefox like rebranding.
I think what makes Garuda interesting. So a couple things. One, as far as like the way it manages your system, it does have health checks, and it does all these things that automatically for you to make sure that you're keeping your Arch system operating well. Like it doesn't feel like. So for those of you that drove like cars in the 80s or 90s that were stick shift and that were carbureted, and basically, there wasn't much between. There was nothing helping you along in that car. It was very manual, manual windows, manual everything. I feel like that's Arch. Like that's my experience with ArchNet, basically. This doesn't feel like that at all. This feels like you've got all kinds of cush. You have you basically, you're not working the system. The system is helping you along more so as far as like an Arch distribution. So for me, this is very different. So it doesn't feel like Arch to me, I guess, I mean that in the wildly best possible way. It's
You could say it's like the difference between vanilla Debian and maybe the Mint Debian version.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think like even Debian is kind of just the Debian ecosystem in and of itself, although it's been giving me a lot of headaches lately. Overall, the Debian seems so mature that it doesn't, except for a couple of servers that I've been dealing with, it seems like it just takes care of everything for you, though. It's not a roll of the dice when you update. Now, it may not update, but an update won't break the system.
Normally. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And normally.
But then they also have, they operate very similar to Arch, where they don't customize anything. However, a desktop environment looks from the developer is how it looks when you install it on Debian. So, yeah, it's a pretty stark difference to something like Pika or Pica OS, where they've taken Debian or Linux Mint Debian Edition,
Right.
That's a Debian with a very opinionated desktop on it. And that's why when someone says, "Oh, great, another Linux distribution," I don't ever think it's a bad thing. Like there could literally never be enough Linux distributions for me, because I feel like everybody adds just a little bit something different, and it's an opportunity those iterations are experiments, and it's an opportunity to potentially improve something, even if it's in a small way.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm of the more the merrier. If it has no place, then it just won't do well. If it has a place, it'll do well, and that's just let the market dictate. I guess of the Linux market dictate.
Yeah.
So what I thought was really neat was the updates and the way you install applications. Now, it's not my favorite way to install applications because there's just big lists and you can just kind of check what you want, which is handy. But I think the curated list is maybe too big, so it's a lot to scroll through. Not a big deal, but just the way they're presenting it is just, it feels a little funny, but it's very convenient, I would say. So I would probably prefer more of a Discover kind of experience or GNOME applications, but I have, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I'm going through the setup assistant right now, and I see what you mean, because there's just a lot of different. But see, I guess again, as a shortcut, instead of needing to know what the package is called, that it just is helpful to have something where you can just tick a box, and I think that's kind of what you're getting out of it.
Well, my criticism there, though, is there's no description next to it. So if you don't know what we know what LibreOffice is, but if you don't know what LibreOffice is, how would you know it's an office? I guess it's an office in the title, I guess. How would you know it has spreadsheets or whatever, or PowerPoint equivalent?
Yeah. I'm not sure which one that I'm looking at the setup assistant, which I'm guessing is different from what you're talking about, because this one does say, when I go to the Office tab, it has LibreOffice Fresh. It says recommended full-featured Office suite, and then only Office, WP Office.
And disregard.
Yeah, I think it must be a different
spot then, I think. I don't want to bring up the virtual
this
machine
is
right
like
now,
that first
just in case.
run.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I will point out that during the startup of the ISO, at least the the Mocha. I always forget the names. Whatever version I'm using, the first version that's in the list. It gives you an
Mocha, Maca.
option to boot with NVIDIA graphics in case you have that, versus just the open source drivers. That's one of the options for booting.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. See that it's nice to have all of these options and things, but it can get a little fiddly. So I do kind of see that point where where it can be a little too much. I mean, it's nice, I'm under browsers and there's literally, 20 choices or 15 choices. So, which I guess would be just about every single browser.
I like that they have Falcon in there, the Falcon browser.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually like the massive list because it kind of forces me uh to pause and just take a look through it what the options are and maybe even second guess what I initially planned on installing. So there's quite a few names of apps that I didn't even know existed, so I had to do a quick Google to find out what they were.
That's a good point. I
Yeah.
do like this is an exercise in discovering new software that I didn't know about
Hmm.
or had forgotten about. Yeah.
I guess maybe it's good that they have too many options as opposed to not enough.
And you're a KDE guy. I would expect that you would love all those options.
Good point. Your team.
It's on brand.
It is. But then I should like Vivaldi, but I don't.
Oh, not even on Android?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. See, I think on Android, it's pretty much the best browser they make or that's available.
I use Firefox. I think Edge might be the worst. But I have Edge installed for like work stuff. I think it's the worst.
Mm.
I don't
I'm
know why
sad.
it's the worst.
I'm sticking with Firefox too so far.
Yeah.
It does
Is
weird
anyone?
things for me.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
I was just wondering if anyone is using Firefox ESR because I've had some not long lasting, but I've had some quirky experiences with 139, 140, and 141 of the regular release. And I've never had any issues with the ESR version. So I'm not sure what I'm missing out by having the ESR version on my work machines, but
I think unless there's a new feature they add, because the ESR version can be pretty far out of date. And so they tend to add a lot of new features, as they release new versions. And so if you wanted tab stacking or, just some new feature that isn't in ESR, then that feels like a bit of a shortcoming just simply because, again, ESR isn't just like a few versions back. It can literally be, many, many, many versions back. So
yeah.
I haven't ran ESR of Firefox on the regular for a long time.
As a
that's
rule, I
kind of
find
Is Sean said he's giving Vivaldi a spin with Firefox cramming AI into Firefox. Is that a thing?
They keep saying they're adding like AI features. There's a sidebar now in Firefox where you can like it's kind of like a window to a website with AI. So you can log into ChatGPT, I think, or you can log into
yes,
Anthropic, or what was that other one called? And like
Claude.
Gemini.
I don't
Yeah,
mind
Claude
it if
and-
it's optional, but if it's just in there doing things, that would bother me. But I don't mind if it's just sitting there, like kind of like the Wave terminal that we used a while ago that has is it Wave?
Yeah,
Which one's
Wave
that?
terminal. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
and it has AI functionality built into to help you with like your bash commands or whatever. I like it because it's useful. So I don't know. I guess as long as it's not cramming. Okay, Michael says it's not cramming because you can turn it off, turn it all off.
Yeah.
Whenever I say
They
turn it
had
all
the
off, I always think of Ghostbusters.
I can't remember what it was called right now, but it was the they see their implementation of this was annoying. It was like a floating thing, and it was for summarizing pages.
Okay.
And but the way they implemented it was kind of annoying. But yeah, so
You're talking
like
about
that was
Firefox? What are you talking about?
yeah, it was Firefox. It was a summarization tool, and it had a like a floating UI that sort of sat on the page, and it was just kind of annoying because it always felt like it was in the way. But it didn't last very long. They took it away. I can't remember what it was called. So I think that's the kind of stuff they're focusing on is more like in page or, things that are very like focused on smaller tasks, not just like here's another AI, chatbot or something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't mind as long as it's not obnoxious. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean they have a page called Mozilla.ai, and it's, at Mozilla AI, we're on a mission to make AI trustworthy, accessible, and open source. So
I'm not sure how they said all that because they said on the vlog they were going to focus on that and having privacy, but it seemed like that sidebar just you just connect with the website. I don't see how it's any more privacy respecting than just you going to the website itself, if there is a way. I don't know. Seems
yeah, that's
seems
a
kind of
fair
weird.
point. Um, yeah, and like you said, it just gives you a choice of Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, and I don't know what LeChat Mistral is, but anyway. Um, and there's no, I guess the point of it is that the context that you're giving it, rather than just being, again, like an open chatbot kind of thing, is that like at the bottom, there's a summarized page option. So if you're reading a long article or something, you can just have selected one of the AI engines, I guess, and then say summarize, which is I guess, an evolution of what they had been doing before. I don't know.
So says Hugging Face has solid privacy, and also Minstrel is open source.
Dragon browser, whatever the heck it's called, the one for Garuda, it uses Cirx as their search engine. That's why it doesn't use Google or anything like that. It uses Cirx. So it
Hmm.
should be more privacy respecting.
Yeah, but how much privacy is there really? I mean,
It's always
you know,
about mitigation. There's no true privacy.
yeah, and that never has been. But I think it should be a right too. Although I think that even that is kind of a myth. But anyway,
Yeah.
What would you say some of the highlights are of Garuda?
I think that Mocha one looks pretty good.
Yeah, I do like the
It,
Mocha one.
which I thought, like I told you, I thought this was gonna be based on Moshka. I misread that. I thought it was gonna be like Bodhi Linux because it kind of
Oh,
reminds me
okay.
with that tree, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not. But I think it looks pretty good. The Dragonite version I remember was very in
Too
your
much.
face with the colors, and then the thing I liked the least about it was that the icons were hard to tell what they were because
Because
I just wanted to see
the
the icon right
circles.
away. Yeah, they were kind of abstract sometimes.
Like I couldn't tell that dolphin was dolphin because the way the circle is around the dolphin, like that you can see it's like that. I didn't realize that was like the top of the tab of the dolphin icon until after I opened it up. Like, oh, okay, I guess, yeah. But yeah, I think the icon shapes are probably a little bit. Eh. Um, what do you think of the neon border around the windows? On
That's
one hand,
kind
I
of their
like it.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like because you can tell on a dark, like one of the criticisms I have of dark themes. Some of them is you can't tell where one window ends, next one begins.
That's a big issue with dark themes.
So yeah, although Windows 10 or Server rather, when using RDP, into Windows Server, you can't tell where the white window ends and the next white one begins too. So it's not that's not like a Linux only problem. So yeah, I mean I have just enough dark where I can see it in contrast with others because I use it's more of a gray than a black. So it's not a problem with most applications for me, but
Did you notice in the Mocha version, it's kind of like Unity, that if you maximize the window, the close and maximize lower window are on the top left. You notice that?
What-
The
I think aren't they
they
on
go
the
into
top
the
left?
yeah, they go on the panel and they're on the top left, those buttons.
Uh-huh.
So it takes up the whole like space. It doesn't have a title bar by itself.
Huh.
The panel itself becomes the title bar because it shows you what Windows is focused right now, the name,
Oh.
and it has the buttons on top.
I actually I didn't notice that. I guess I didn't maximize anything. Oops. That is neat.
What the
I think I didn't like having the menu bar on the top. I don't know why, but I just don't like that. For me personally, it doesn't work well for how I like to use my screens. So I like everything on the bottom of just one screen only, and that's it. So
I think
I guess it's fine.
the reason I like it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, where they've got all these tools that I haven't used Btrfs a lot, and so something like the Btrfs Assistant or Snapper tools, like that kind of stuff is handy to have installed. As well as, they've got a boot options utility, which lets you set up, obviously the boot options, network assistant. They've got sort of these, utilities that make running the system easier, I guess. So that's really the value add. I mean, above and beyond the theming or whatever. But, I think as opposed to running just a vanilla Arch setup, that this kind of does give you some nice little tools, but then does kind of mostly stay out of your way. So I think in a lot of cases, something like this is going to come down to the community too. Like, do you feel any affinity for the community? Do you frequent the forums? Do you kind of like check, in on things? So, and I think maybe that's where, because I know Endeavor, that's a big part of their success, if you want to call it that, or popularity, I guess, is that they do have a pretty strong community of people who are helpful and, friendly. And so I would think that probably Garuda has a similar thing. And so you kind of just like, it's not just that you're getting a desktop environment and a Linux distro, you're getting, a community along with that of people who might help you learn things about Linux that you didn't know, or switch away from something else, or just be a better experience of like using Arch than the Arch community, which is sort of notoriously not particularly friendly. So yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of the secret of all of it. It's Arch that's easier to install, has some nice tools, looks good, depending, subjectively. And then, yeah, the community behind it.
I didn't really dig into the community part of it much, so I can't say one way or the other if it's a great community or if it's if they're a bunch of unfriendly people. But
yeah,
I don't know. It seems like today, I know Arch did get kind of a rash of poo thrown at it for its less than friendly reputation. But honestly, I think overall, Linux, it seems like Linux communities are pretty cool.
How about, let's say, beginner friendly? Because it's not that if you bring a legitimate technical question that you have researched and tried to fix yourself to the Arch forums, people will help you. It's just if you come there and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me? They're going to go, no, go read something. Go watch a video, go educate yourself. So I think that, and some people, rather than seeing it as sort of like we're not going to do it for you, they see it as, well, they were mean to me. So I don't know. Versus a lot of these types of distros are very, very, very like open arms and, hey, we like our users and come on in. And, I think that's probably a big difference. So.
Yeah, you're probably right.
One
about
of
any,
their
no,
categories in their
finish.
forum is off-topic chit chat, silliness factor 5. Like that's the category name. So, it just kind of shows you that it's kind of like a warm, fun place to be, I guess. Anywho,
Yeah.
Perversely, Linux Mint help forums a number of years back when I first got into this. I think it was back in 2018, 2019, when I decided to settle on Linux Mint as my OS of choice, Cinnamon desktop. My mouse was moving very rapidly, and I had no means of controlling it. I could not slow it down or speed it up. It was just one speed. So I posted in the appropriate forum, hi, newbie here. My mouse is too fast, dot, dot, dot. So a bot came on and yanked me off, and after some time, I got back on and I said, I'm serious. I need to know how to actually control my mouse, and I don't know why it's faster. External mouse works great, but my ThinkPad track point, not so much. On back and forth, I was threatened to get off once more, and I think someone took pity on me because it did come across reasonably, legit, and said, "Well, try ripping out the X driver, IO driver, and put an FDev driver and see what happens." And yeah, that worked. That was the Mint based on Ubuntu 1604 LTS. Yeah.
It seems weird that they would bump you for that.
I don't know if I should be offended, crestfallen, or just laugh. I just laughed. I thought it was, well, you know what? It was a stupidly phrased question. My mouse is too fast. What do I do? What?
move your hand slower.
Seems like they could have asked for clarification just to make sure,
One
what
would
do you
think,
mean your mouse is too
but it all
fast?
depends on the people who are actually helping, what time zone they're in. I mean, I'm bugging somebody at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The responder could be at 4 a.m. wherever, and did not have enough coffee, I suppose. I don't know. But yeah, I just thought it was pretty funny because the most noob-friendly group out there, Linux Mint, boy, did I suffer the ire of them so much. Yeah.
It must have. I mean, you're Canadian, so you're not even snooty. So I don't understand.
Well, that's the advertising we promote. So yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Are you saying that's not true? I've known enough Canadians to know that it's not a universal. There's no such thing as universal human behavior anyway. So.
That's true.
I have some relatives that are Canadian, so I know it's not true.
Besides, I've seen Trailer Park Boys.
That's true, but even they were pretty polite.
I'm a failed Canadian because I've never ever seen even a snippet of that thing. My kids tell me about it all the time. Friends tell me about it, and yeah, I should be kicked out.
Probably my favorite Canadian cultural documentary.
Documentary.
That's good.
I mean, it's like so bad that you can't stop watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I love
pretty
this
bad.
I love Mr. Leahy. May he rest in peace. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's great.
I'm
It's-
kind of a Bubbles guy myself, but
Oh,
whatever.
Bubbles is also good. Bubbles is good. I guess in real life he's not the friendliest. He's nothing like his character. So
I was like Ricky until I was 16. So
in a car with only one door.
yeah, and I used the F-bomb every chance I got, So.
Yeah, but I bet you didn't have that cool hair though.
No, I did not. No.
I use a lot of Rickyisms to see, like, if you use them in a crowd, like a group of people, small group of people, you'll know immediately if they've seen Trailer Park Boys or not. But anyway, I don't know if I should say any Rickyisms.
I think Letterkenny though is probably my favorite Canadian show of all time.
I've only seen like little clips of that.
It's the reason I love it is because the play that they have these playful things with words, and they just sit there and they'll go through this. It's almost very old timey, like Abbott and Costello in a way. Like it's very like quick. You got to like pay attention to the words, and there's a lot of canon in the show where you got to know like who people are and when things happen. And but yeah, it is one of the few shows that literally makes me laugh out loud often when I watch it. So
kind of like that movie Avengers of the Nerds. There's a Rickyism right there. Avengers of the Nerds. Instead of Revenge of the Nerds.
Instead of Revenge of the Nerds?
Yeah, instead of Revenge of the Nerds, he said Avengers of the Nerds.
Yeah.
Well,
Worst Case Ontario is probably my favorite Rickyism, by the way. And I use that one a lot.
Ontario?
Yeah, it says a worst case scenario. You say worst case Ontario. And when you say it, the people look at you like, what?
Half my family's in Saskatchewan. And the amount of vitriol directed to Ontarians, every time I go anywhere, because my demeanor, it's like, hello, I'm going to, make myself known. And they don't do that. They stay to themselves. So you can almost see oh, you must be from Ontario. And I have to apologize. I feel the need to apologize. And it seems to be rampant, not just through the prairie provinces, but all the way to the East Coast too. So I don't know, it's kind of a bizarre thing. Now I'm flying back and forth every 5 minutes, spending a lot of time over there. I'm just kind of aware of the people we are in Ontario. And I think we get a bad rap quite often, deservedly so. But yeah, just laugh.
You have to laugh at everything.
Oh yeah, just roll with it. Lean into it.
So here's a couple of Rickyisms. Every kid goes through phrases. That's a good one.
Yep.
False accriminations.
Don't judge a book by its look. That's another one.
I think one of my favorites is get two birds stoned at once. Anyway, it's a family-friendly show. Can't use that. Oh, anyway. Any lowlights you'd say? Did I say this already? Ask this already? Any lowlights of Garuda? No. I didn't really think
I'm
there were
trying to remember. There was a reason I didn't use it long term, because I did use it for a little while, and I don't think it was anything that they did. I don't know.
The archness bit me is my problem. But it looks like now they have systems in place now that the health checks and whatever that are built into it, that would kind of help you through that if that were to happen. So, Eric, you said you played with the snapper tools in it a little bit, or did you just looked at them? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. So I was going to ask you, so the visuals, they look fun. I'm going to say with the Maca, the visuals absolutely look fun. But do you think if you were to see this on a Can you see this on a computer in a workplace though? Or do you think it's too?
I don't think it's meant to be professional necessarily.
Yeah.
But of course you can always change the theme and the look and feel. So, but I think that's a situation where I don't know that you're going to have Arch-based machines in a workplace necessarily anyway. Not to say that you couldn't possibly have them, but I just think in general, most likely you're going to have, Ubuntu based, Fedora based, or Red Hat based, or, SUSE, something that's more geared towards corporate environments.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely not corporate geared. What do you say, Eris?
Oh, for the lowlights, I will say this might just be the VM, but my session has crashed like a couple times.
Oh, yeah, it could be.
And yeah, so I don't know if that's the problem, but it has crashed. I would like to point that out.
So
I
there's-
didn't have a low light as such. I did have a little quirk in the initial install when it says, "Okay, you're all installed. Press this button to restart," and it didn't. And I just basically went to the terminal and just say sudo reboot and off we go. That was the only thing for me. And I used, I'll preface that. My first forays into Linux with Arch, pretty dismal. It was pretty bad. I just couldn't get with it, so I just let it lie for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And this is the first time I've done an Arch-based thing since that time, 4 or 5 years ago. I like it. I'm going to keep Garuda on my play machine until something else comes along because it's clean, it's accessible. Talking about the auto or the manual shift car.
Mm-hmm.
This is like having a manual shift car, but with a little red button that says, "I want to turn my brain off." Just go. It's my auto button. So, yeah, I can have the best of both worlds and take my time exploring Arch in a bit more controlled fashion, I guess.
Yeah.
That's how it comes across to me, anyhow. And I did download the cinnamon based one, and the first thing I did was change the background. Love that eagle, but a bit too much. My eyeballs were hurting, so I made it a black background. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But the
it's
the
really extreme, that bird.
yeah, the icon set for the cinnamon theme is quite attractive, I thought. Very intuitive, no second guessing what the icons mean.
Yeah. I didn't do the cinnamon.
I'm gonna get.
Yeah. Good.
I think I'm gonna give him credit for this this centralized maintenance tool. They're calling it Rainier.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is pretty interesting in terms of like having surfacing all these different things. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different, a lot of different sections, and it can be a little sort of overwhelming, but it's really nice it's kind of like how Yast is in a lot of ways, where you've got all of this, all these different system settings that are normally going to be a terminal-based command. And then you can just, by virtue of this this UI, you can get to and see these different things. And it has a built-in terminal. Like it's a really kind of well thought out thing. I think it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I think it's great. I mean, SUSE is moving away from using Yast because of things like Cockpit for managing the systems. But yeah, I think like the fact they have like a thing like Yast, essentially, that's a huge win for sure.
I love the resetting configs to default state on things, because I think that sometimes you can get a little wild and like out of control and make a mistake, and then you can't figure out how to get it back to what it was. And
right. There's no, it's like an undo button.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty cool to be able to do that. And then yeah, like all this stuff with, updating and cleaning the cache and orphan. I mean, just anything you can think of along those lines for maintenance. And then yeah, system settings, like which components are in use. Like this is pretty slick. And it's
Hmm.
obviously reading in system D and all that stuff. So yeah, I think that's probably like the highlight for me is just all that stuff.
Yeah, I think
One,
it's huge.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying I just think that's huge. I really liked it a lot, and the way it
Yeah.
looks is nice too. How they have like big tiles,
Yeah.
good usage of negative space, as Jill might say.
Yeah. All
Jill
the
Grant.
kernels. Yeah, it's just it's pretty cohesive, which or comprehensive, which is pretty wild. Yeah. Yeah, this is cool.
Also find, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Good.
Yeah, I was just going to say I also find that the memory footprint, even with Conky going, I just reset it back to the default look and feel, and 1.1 gig is the memory hit, but the CPU utilization is like nothing, 1.3-ish on average percent, and yeah, CPU drops down to minimum on a laptop pretty quickly, so your battery will last a long time. Fans won't be screaming. This is
Mm-hmm.
actually better than any Debian-based stuff that I've ever tried, so
Well, that's
attractive.
worth something right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Also, when it's good. Eric's put in the chat here, but when you start the up a terminal, it kind of gives like you a bit of like a neo fetch almost. A nice looking one. I wonder what actually it is, but it shows the OS kernel packages, shell, stuff like that. Oh, speaking of shell and the Rani, the Garuda Rani, you can with a drop down. So if you like, you can change from using Bash to Fish for your terminal, and I thought that was pretty awesome. So you can with just a click of a drop down, you can change what sort of what you use for your terminal. So pretty cool. Does anybody here use Fish besides me? Jinda?
I have, and I know one of the strengths is that it remembers and auto completes,
Mm-hmm.
but I found that to be pretty, for my purposes, it kind of got in my way. So I'm pretty sure that's why I stopped using it.
Yeah,
So
pretty
what?
much the same here. I tried it and it was nice. Had some really nice features, but it seemed to get in the way of me wanting to do what I wanted to do, So
So what I like about and how I use it very often is I could create bookmarks for all the different machines I SSH into, it'd be no problem. But because Fish is so convenient, I can just type SSH and then hit arrow up, and then every SSH thing that I've used, it'll flip to those, and that is pretty neat. So that or if I know it's like, if I have to reset the can't remember what it's called now, the Plasma Power Devil service. All I have to do is type in like sys and then that command just pops in, and for me it's very handy. There's only a few instances where I'd say it's annoying, but those are very minimal number of instances. So
I think most of it was just I'm so used to Bash,
sure, no, I get it.
that it was getting in my way. So
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. It was like it was neat that it was doing it for a little bit, and then I kept trying to do a command, but a different, uh, I understand you can like just hit tab and I don't know. Visually, it was kind of like just a little confusing to constantly have that pre-fill thing that it was doing.
Yeah,
So
I understand. It's handy for me, but I get it. So yeah, what else was I gonna say here? So do you think the Rani settings should be better integrated into like the the desktop, whatever desktop you're using, into their settings menu? Do you think that'd be more handy, or do you think the way it is fine?
Kind of get the sense this is like a first foray into this, and that it's obviously using web technologies, and I wonder if maybe that's why they've had to keep it like the way it is, and that it's harder to integrate into the desktop. I don't know, but I would say if they get a lot of traction with it, they would probably, you know, maybe either make individual things, because that's one of the things is probably figuring out like what are the most used parts of it, and then surfacing those as being like either the first things you see, or even like how Plasma has sort of pulled out parts of the control panel into different options in the menu, in the applications menu. So I could see them doing that maybe.
I like when there's more than one way to get to the same thing, because if you're, all roads lead to Rome, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that anyway. Yeah. So, Ron, you said you're gonna keep it around on your test machine, Garuda.
I will, although I just found one little bit of disappointment. My memory commit charge was 2.7 gig. I had a bunch of apps running, and I thought I set it up with Hibernate, swap with Hibernate. So I thought I'd give it a shot to see what Hibernate is like. It did hibernate, but with that small memory commit, I would say it took about 3 minutes, which is really, really long. I hibernate a lot in my life, so yeah.
Yep, I use it a lot too.
Yeah,
But I just go to sleep,
especially
though,
with
when I
winter
hibernate.
coming.
Right, yeah.
I was about to say that you're from Canada, so you must hibernate a lot over there.
It's a matter of survival.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Anything else on Garuda from anybody? So I'm going to keep it around on a VM for sure. Check it out from time to time. But I think that's the Mocha the Mocha edition, Maca. That's probably my favorite of their iterations so far, visually.
Might I ask why?
It has the neon elements of the dragonized, but it's a little bit more tamed
Pastels.
down as far as the icon sets. What's that?
It's not neon, it's pastels.
Yeah, pastels. And then I don't know how much I like the buttons, like the close, minimize, maximize, and the
I hate
upper
that.
left. I don't know how much I like.
Yeah.
I mean, I get used to it. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I hate it, but I'm hoping to change.
But it's KDE, so you could definitely change. It'd be no problem to change. Really easy.
Yeah.
Barely an inconvenience. Corner's a little bit rounded by default, but again, that's all easily. I could tweak that no problem very, very quickly in KDE. The Arch thing still kind of has me nervous. I know that Valve is getting involved with the Arch project, so it's probably going to get some of the rough edges are probably going to get cleaned up in Arch, I'm sure. Good, bad, or otherwise. But I mean, I would call it if I need to have rolling and I want all the safety nets, this would be my escape hatch, if you want to call it that.
Oh,
I think he's deep in
froze,
thought.
Nate.
What?
You froze, Nate. You said I think you said that Arch is gonna get better through the rough edges now that Valve is involved, and then you froze. Yeah.
Yeah, it said my internet connection was unstable. So, yay. I would say my bitrate seems stable up there though. Maybe it was just Zoom. Whatever. I would say if things were to, like if Tumbleweed were to go away today, it would now be between Garuda and Fedora, I think, as far as like where I would go at this point. So I mean, Arch has really kind of shifted its. With this iteration of Arch, I would say it's really shifted. I think it's actually pretty good, like really quite good.
So you feel a lot more confident because of Snapper built-in?
Yeah, I do. So,
I think
Well,
I
Sean,
echo that sentiment too because I had too many breakages, way back 4 or 5 years ago, and now I feel more confident that if a breakage happens, I'll be more able to fix things.
mhm.
Yeah.
My concern is I don't like sometimes if it gets further out of date with Arch, it's harder to update. So I don't know how much it's going to help you. Maybe if it maybe like a bad round of packages, roll back and then do it again like the next day or whatever. So
Mm.
I don't know how well it's going to work out, but it definitely has a lot more. It has me a lot more confident. And Zoe Ronan says, "OMG, we've converted Nate to Arch." No, but I would say it is. They're using the neat technology that I really like in Linux and what's in Tumbleweed. They've adopted a lot of those technologies I think are really important. Like kind of I need those technologies or I'm not going to use it. They've basically adopted those. So, I mean, I think it's pretty dope, as the kids would say, or no, they use the term cap. Is that the Gen Z kids use cap now? Like it's straight capping, or I don't know. I don't know. What
No
it means.
cap.
No cap. What does that mean? Not wearing a hat?
No, that you're not lying. Cap would mean you're lying.
Oh, so it's no cap. No cap. I was never good at slang, from the 80s either, so that's why I use groovy still. Yeah, it's pretty groovy. Anybody else got anything on there?
I
So
find it,
let's
I find it interesting that when your internet freezes, you have a look on your face like you're pondering something. Have y'all noticed that? Every time it freezes, it's like he's looking off to the side. Interesting.
An
There's a
epiphany.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, well,
Hey,
it's
I
my
just wanted to comment on, what you're saying about Arch. We talked about this several weeks ago about Omarchi, and it's really, really on fire right now in the development community, and it's Arch based. And what they've done with that distribution is really for developers. It wouldn't be just great for the common person, but what's nice about it is it's an opinionated distribution. And what I mean by that is everything is set up for you. Everything is configured. Everything has had programs created to adjust things that normally you would have to adjust in Arch through a config file. So it's and I think that's what's making it so popular. It's because you can take a laptop and turn it into a development machine in 20 minutes, and everything's there that you need. So I just thought that was interesting. You were talking about Arch. I've always felt the same way about. I didn't really trust it, or I didn't feel comfortable running it. But it seems like that it's coming around. That there's some distros out there that are starting to kind of build on top of it to make it smoother.
Well, I usually have Arch systems break on me eventually, and so it just wasn't worth my time and effort.
Sure.
But I think the way the Garuda's got the little bits in there to maintain it for you, that might be those might be the missing pieces, I guess, for a good Arch experience. It's essentially it's not exactly, but Tumbleweed's got all these things built into it so that you can roll confidently and roll things back if necessary if you are messing around too much or whatever. And I just think that this kind of has that same sort of safety net that I've grown accustomed to. So
yeah, well that's how I felt. I put Omarchi on my old MacBook, and it installed fine. It ran fine, no problems. It could use some more RAM, obviously, but yeah, it was kind of the same thing. I didn't get to install this week's distro, but because I didn't have much time, but you just got me thinking about, my experience with Omarchi and how it was so similar, that they had built so many tools for it, and the installer was so nice that, it seems like Arch is starting to come around to that idea.
Yeah, I think I give Valve a lot of credit for that just because of their everything to do
Absolutely.
with SteamOS, I would say. I think we have to try NixOS at some point in time, but I've said this before, but we need to have let me do some research on that, but put together a list of these are the things you should try with Nix that make it cool. And then, yeah, it's just to see, because, otherwise if you use like a regular distribution, you're not going to get the benefits of Nix. But if you go through the effort of learning certain aspects of it or using it in a certain way, then you can understand what makes it special. And I know that Sean, who sometimes joins us, he's a big Nix fan. I use Nix, by the way, or whatever. And also, like, if you're listening to like the Jupiter Broadcasting's Linux Unplugged, they do talk about Nix quite a bit. At least they have historically. I don't know if they did this past week. I'm a little behind, but they do listen to they do talk about Nix quite a bit. So anyway, all right, could probably put a bow in this one. So thank you very much on your input on all that is Garuda. I'm sure I'm going to hear from Matt, my co-host on Linux Out Loud, about my not being so negative about Garuda. So whatever. All right,
Well,
we'll go ahead
because
and
he's Mr. Positivity, obviously.
Yeah, well, he likes to. If I show any sort of weakness, he likes to exploit it, which I don't care.
He has this little dental pick, Eric, that he just kind of picks away at Nate when he can.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
Kind of gets up in there in the armor. I bought some at Harbor Freight. I bought some new picks, like little metal, little safety things on there. I just got them. Really excited. You always need a metal pick when working on something. You also want some plastic ones, which I don't have, but I need to get. Anyway, that's an aside. All right, okay, so hop into the housekeeping. So next week is a news flight night, and we'll see if I'm doing it from here or from somewhere else. I don't know yet, but we'll have it. So bring your news topics, anything you think is exciting. If it's maybe an aspect, if you have like an aspect of like somewhere in Linux and open source that really intrigues you, because there's just so much technology news anymore today, it's hard to stay on top of all of it. So something you want to talk about specifically, let us know. Any kind of suggestions you may have, please send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com, or although I'm behind on my email again, it happens, but I have to blame work on this one. But any distribution suggestions like NixOS, or if you have any suggestions as to how we can test Nix or some other distribution maybe that you really enjoy, we haven't done like some of the more esoteric ones in a while. I like esoteric ones, because you're always going to have a good experience with Ubuntu and Fedora, and SUSE is kind of boring because it's always the same. It just there. Although Leap 16 might be interesting, I would say, because what they're doing with that, the refactoring a lot of it because Leap is basically the free version of SUSE Linux Enterprise, so that might be interesting. But anyway, that aside, if you have any applications you think we should try out too, anything that stands out, a couple weeks we're doing one of those application appetizers, so please send your suggestions. It'd be fun to do a either focus around one or two kinds of applications that we can test maybe a little bit longer than just a week. But anyway, so yeah, next week, news flight night, but do send your suggestions. You can also send them on Telegram and Discord as well. All right. I guess we have time for some news. Except I got some here, but also I got some here. Also, I guess we lost our Ben and Seeker, so I guess no community report from them. All right. So this is kind of fun from 404media.co. Apparently, librarians are being asked to find AI-hallucinated books. Oh, the world we live in. So I won't read the whole article, but I'm just going to read the introduction here. So reference librarian Eddie Kristen says leaders at the library where he works have been asking him to find books that don't exist without realizing that they were hallucinated by AI ever since the release of GPT 3.5 in late 2022. But the problem escalated over the summer after finding patron requests for the same fake book titles from real authors. The consequence of an AI-generated summer reading list circulated in special editions in the Chicago Sun-Times and the Philadelphia Inquirer later this year. At the time, Freelancer told 404 Media that he used AI to produce the list without fact-checking outputs before syndication. So, I'll skip through a bunch of the article here. There's this was in the Telegram group. I don't know if Eris already got it. So, there's plenty of library workers that remain cautiously optimistic about the potential for generative AI integrations and what that could mean for information retrieval and categorization. But for most librarians, the rollout has been chunky, error-filled, and disorienting for them and their patrons. And that's reference to just everything. So I actually had a very similar experience with AI recently. I was trying to find out if I just would have gone to the source, but I was trying to find some the standards of perfection from the American Poultry Association. I was trying to understand like the versions, the editions I should say. And when asking AI, it said there is no such thing as the 45th edition, when absolutely there was. And so I spent more time arguing with the AI than I did, it was Jippity, by the way, arguing with the AI than I did actually finding it helpful. So it was better. It was way easier just to actually look for the source. So I find my patience with AI is very low. So as soon as it starts giving me like garbage, I'm like, I'm done with you today. You're done. And I find it's happening more often now. And so I don't know if that's just a me problem or if it's something else. But I find if I get very narrow, but this one was a very narrow request, but it still was way unuseful. So I don't know, does anybody have anything similar?
I think
Actually, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I
Ron.
was just going to say that ever since ChatGPT 3, I think, came out, and then 3.5 became the big one, every query, and it could be a bland one that just has like 3 or 4 parameters or something really narrowed down, like a car part that I'm after. What does it do in a car? I spent so much time just formulating in my skull how I should prompt. I wait for the results, and it's one result as opposed to a search engine giving you a whole wall of links, right? One search result comes, it's not quite what you're after. And I'm thinking, okay, if I had to quantify it, I spent about 7 minutes doing this, or I could have spent 30 seconds just asking Google. And but the only redeeming case for an AI engine, it was Anthropic. I forgot what their product is called. Claude, I think.
I think so. Claude.
Yeah. Anyhow, Claude AI. I've been racking my brain since I was a teenager trying to remember a short story, a sci-fi thing, written anywhere between the the 40s, late 40s to perhaps the early 70s. And I remember it was a short story. Astronaut landed on a planet can't breathe the air, running out of oxygen, getting exhausted, no water, no food, and just dying. Took off his helmet, and he's just dying, and finally found an object shimmering in the distance, starts crawling towards it, crawl inside it, and it's almost like the scene cut to black, and then scene wake became light again, and the astronaut found that, oh, I can breathe. I can eat this stuff on the ground, and I feel satiated. I can stretch. I'm feeling wonderful. And the story ends with a lizard came out of that booth. So basically, that piece of hardware changed the physiology of that astronaut so that he could survive on that planet. Well, I love that story. Can't remember the name, can't remember the author. Claude
I know
AI found it.
I could have sworn there was a part of a game, like an old like a point and click, I thought. But it sounds very familiar.
Sounds similar? Yeah. Yeah, this story, I'm pretty sure it was written in like mid 50s, 52, 55 or something like that. And it was definitely a short story, like, I don't know, 28 pages, 35 pages. But I found it, and yeah, I was, thrilled by it, and then promptly forgot what it was weeks later. So right now, I'm going to go through that exercise, I'm sure, one day. But that was the only time where the aggregated info was useful to me. Yeah.
No, I think that's actually kind of cool.
I was just
Yeah.
looking at my Chat GPT history about things that I asked it, and it's kind of interesting to go back and look at those. You know how it saves them, and I had stuff like S3 sync exclude issue, which there's one there. OpenVPN default port, that was a question. Allowing multiple logins on OpenVPN, CFIP restrictions on Let's Encrypt, future of IO domains, add CAA records to Cloudflare. Just, it's good for things that are kind of low or mid-level system issues that you have to just deal with for being out there or hosting things.
I agree.
I found for coding, it's nowhere near it needs to be, because
lied about. Don't deal in lies or being hated. Don't give way to hate. And
yeah,
winning is the real trap. Winning is
what it tends to do is it just kind of looks at everything that it's indexed and then tries to work out a solution based on that from what other people have done in the documentation. And I've seen more mistakes in that than it would. The mistakes in it makes it longer to debug than it is to actually write the code. So it's just not quite there yet, in my opinion. So
probably like using snippets. Ask for specific how to the syntax for a specific function. I'm sure it does very well with, because it has all those libraries built into it.
But if I ask you to write a function that takes these parameters and spits out this parameter or this return value in whatever language, I get one back, and it's either, it's okay sometimes. I would say 60% of the time the code is okay, but the other 40% it's just not right. It's either bad code or it's just wrong. It'll add things in there that don't even exist in the language.
Well, that's what Jinda's for, because he can find all your bugs for you.
Well, that's very true. So yeah, so I don't use it for I really don't use it for coding anymore. I tried it a little bit, and I just was not satisfied with it. But there's probably a future for programmers now that they call it Vibe, VIBE coding, when you try and write code from AI. Problem is only about 60% of it's correct. So there's a whole market there for programmers to fix vibe coding programs. So there you go. There's your $100,000 idea right there.
People are starting to put in their CVs that they're experts at cleaning up vibe coding.
Yep. That's hilarious. I mean, it really is.
What
saw
does that
someone-
even mean, vibe coding?
Well, what it means is you go to ChatGPT or any of the AIs and you say, I need you to develop a program in C or any language that will allow me to pick and choose from a list of DNSs, and once I pick one, set that to my default one on Linux. You know, that's what vibe coding is, what I just did. And
Yeah,
you end
those
up just a mishmash of garbage, you know.
You
Yeah.
talk in layman, and the AI does the programming itself.
Right.
yeah, you just like it's more or less prompt engineering at that point.
Right.
Like how if you listen to Linux Matters, which is Popey and
Wimpy.
Wimpy and those guys, so Popey was explaining how, and Mark, how he was using a system that does vibe coding by virtue of product description, like product requirements documents. So if you do product management, you basically are setting the requirements and the conditions, and like it's very it's all plain English, but it's also very regimented and succinct, like instructions and like descriptions of it needs to do this, it needs to do it this way, it needs to, and like all these different things, even like use cases and QA type stuff. And that's usually stuff that's done prior to and then as part of the actual coding process or software development process. And apparently he was using some tool that created the code just based on the conditions that you gave it, but again from a very specific product management perspective, like by giving it a very carefully thought out and well planned description of like how a product should work, who it serves, and all that sort of stuff. And he was like, by approaching it that way, it's more about the language that you're using and the criteria you're giving it than it is the code that it spits out. The code is like almost like a secondary consideration, where it's as long as it does what is described in that documentation, then that's the measure for success, not how clean the code is or how much a senior developer would like, this code. It's, does it meet this criteria? Does it do what it's supposed to do?
Right.
And so it was just and to hear the way he described it as a layman coder, but as someone who's been dealing with software development in that aspect from product management for a long time, like it was interesting to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah.
So
There's still a lot of shortcomings. Like one thing that AI is bad at doing is understanding the interaction between different parts of the code, especially if you're allowing it to make changes. So if you want it to change something that it wrote in that conversation, it may or may not understand the ramifications of the code that it changes and how it's going to affect other things in the code. It just depends on where it got it from, and it's just, I mean, it's interesting, and it's interesting to see what it comes up with. But to me, it's just a waste of time at this point. I mean, being a one-man shop, I would rather write the code myself and know where everything's at instead of having to explore it for a day to understand the code. And then
So Sorry, finish your thought. I didn't
No,
mean
I
to
was
jump
just
in.
gonna say, and try and fix the bugs, you know.
Yeah, and I think because that's like you're a specialist and you know how to do those things. And so for you, it's just easier for you to do that part of it. Whereas a layperson or a product manager, someone who is outside of that skill set, who still understands software development and understands all the requirements and all that kind of stuff, the QA
Yeah,
and like, but then just doesn't know how to produce the code themselves. I
right.
think that's where something like this and the tool that he was using is called Tessel, Tessl. But anyway, and there were I did that job for about 5 years, and there were lots of times where I would have loved the ability to just simply, um, either develop the requirements better and understand that what the requirements I was giving, because that's always a point of contention, right? You have
Right.
to I'm getting the requirements from the customer base, from not just out of my head. I mean, sometimes it was, but it was mainly to do with the contractual obligations we had and, the implementation teams and the feedback they were giving me and the systems we were working with. So there was all this disparate information coming in. I had to collate it and understand it and then put it into a requirements document that then made sense to the developers. So if I had a tool that would at least have given me a sense of like how accurate and complete I was, the data was that I was providing them. And if using a system like this gave me that kind of a feedback, like I think that would have been pretty impressive. And also there were lots of times where I just wanted to be able to do a prototype of something,
Yeah,
and it didn't have to be fully fleshed out. It didn't have to be production ready. It just needed to be something that I could, like, let's say I had a really big sales meeting, an opportunity with a new customer that was asking about, because we would do stuff on specs sometimes where it was like, the product didn't have this functionality, but we had something that was similar, but we needed to adopt it in some way to a different system, a different practice, whatever. And to be able to take our code base and then just do a demonstration of like a prototype on top of that without having to invest the time of my developers and just
sure.
have something that basically looks good and is functional enough to get an idea across,
Yeah,
like that would be hugely beneficial. So again, like we were talking about, almost like with the 3D printing thing, like where if you're not going to produce, the final product with the 3D printer probably, but if you're iterating through a design process where you're trying to come up with different versions of something and, iterate on an idea, like that's the beauty of that. And I think maybe that's where AI comes into play with something like this, where I don't know. I mean, eventually maybe we get to the point where AI is just good enough that, you can do that. But right now, I think the advantage it could be is that it sort of fills in some of those areas, like, technical documentation is always a pain in the ass to get,
absolutely.
you know what I mean? And that's an area. So I mean, I just think there are places that it could help, because the truth is, like, you can never just get enough funding. Like, your team is never full, right? I
Right.
mean, it's almost never the case that you have the people that you need, all the spots are full, and everything's humming along. There's always some deficiency somewhere. And to be able to maybe plug some of those gaps, with the understanding that the final product, the thing that your paying customers are getting, is the one that was developed by professional developers and software engineers and, all that stuff. But in the middle of that is where the difficulty lies, because there were so many initiatives that I couldn't get done simply because we didn't have the the bandwidth to do them. And so having something like this would be beneficial. So anyway, it's all such a nebulous but early,
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, I'm talking about general AI. There are some very specific engines and LLMs that are used for coding, which
yeah.
which do work well, by the way.
Well, I just found out about Gemini Gems. So, and I know GPTs, it's the same thing. It's just
Yeah,
these applications of like an LLM where you're saying, well, you're almost like creating a persona in a way, and you're saying
right.
this is like you know, this GPT.
I did that. I actually put in the requirements document. I sent it uploaded it to it. I told it as much as I could about the project,
Mhm.
told it what language to use, told it how I expected it to be structured. I was trying to think what else, what libraries it could use and which ones it could not. And it just, I've just yet to get any code out of a general AI that is usable. You know what I'm saying? For that matter, even run. I mean, it's just there's so much. Excuse the expression, but there's just so much garbage out there in this LLM
Yeah.
that
Well,
it just puts stuff out there that functions that don't exist,
yeah.
things like that. It's just
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because that Tesla tool, I'm looking at the homepage, and one of the things that they just released is a spec registry which stops agents from hallucinating APIs.
exactly. Yeah, I mean it's crazy. I mean, and in fairness, I do like it as a general tool. I use it for help me with my licensing and with my contracts. Uh, it helps me with my specs. I have it check over my contracts. I mean, I use it for those kind of things. I just have not been able to use it for code in a useful way yet. And I hope
Mhm.
someday it will be. The little bit I've got out of it are very small functions. So that's
Yeah.
really about it. Anyway, I'll shut up now. Sorry.
It's all good. It's good discussion. But it is time for last call. We're a little over, but that's usually what happens when you have Eric in the bunch. So it's all good.
You're a good
So,
man, Nate.
I don't know about that. So, do you have anything you want to say, like go around the horn here? Like, Eric, if you're doing anything exciting? Any podcasts?
Not really.
Or shows? No.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been doing Mintcast and Linux OTC, so they just come out when they come out. Nothing special or different. And yeah, that's about it.
Ron, we haven't heard from you in a while. Do you have any new ThinkPads or any old ThinkPads that you came across?
No, status quo. I do have a new one. Well, new as in it's still in its box, and I didn't realize I had it for this long, but it's just past its 3-year warranty, and
Oh.
it's a P1 16-inch beastie. So it's going to my lawyer. He's retiring.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
Oh. They have to get a new lawyer now.
So, huh? Yes, and that is so stressing me out right now because I've been with this dude, I don't know, 32 years?
Ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
33 years. So it's, yeah. Perils
That can
of
be
growing
troubling.
older.
What can you do? That's the way it goes.
Yeah, the replacement is a young punk who's about 38, so that's good. He'll outlive me. That's all I care about.
Fantastic. Well, glad to have you.
Glad to make it, finally.
Yeah. Dale, anything exciting coming up in your world?
Ink Stitch Live tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock Eastern time. And taking some time off of work, so I should be able to start cranking out a few Linux videos here and there on my
Fantastic.
channel.
I'll be flying.
What is it you're saying is tomorrow at 7?
Ink Stitch Live. It's a plugin for Inkscape that allows you to digitize for machine embroidery.
Ink Stitch. Gotcha.
My daughter was just talking about that add-on last week. Huh.
Outstanding.
Is that Eastern time, Bill?
Yes. Yes, Eastern time.
Sweet. Well, Mike, what's exciting?
You, man. I got my weekend was fulfilled this morning when I watched you on Linux Out Loud. I mean, what else can I say? I mean, it just kind of made my weekend.
Oh, good. I'm glad it's making that's sweet. I have to write that down. We have one fan.
and Jenda has helped me to get Mark Light to a super stable state now. So Now I can start doing the snap and the flat pack. So
Sweet. I think I have it installed using Distro box. So I should kick its tires again. Do you have a new download from your site?
oh yeah. Yeah, the next release will be like right now it's like 0.1.6, and I'll be jumping up to a 1.0 version the next release. So.
Sweet. I'll have to try it again. See how it goes. So don't forget that next week it's a news flight night. So any news topics you got, do send them. And yeah, look forward to it. So I'm on a podcast called Linux Out Loud, but you just heard about that from Mike. So nothing else to say from my point of view. So you can check that out. I'm no Matt, but I have Bill. Bill came by and decided to tell me what I was doing wrong, but I'm fine with that. Which actually I do think NAS solutions might be a good topic, maybe for open mic night or something, maybe an application. I don't know. Let's think about that bit. Let's think about that, Mike. We'll do some brainstorming. Anybody else who's thinking about it too? What do you do for network storage? Just a thought. Let's see here. No GNU to Linux this week. That's makes me a little sad, but it's all right. I have a website called cubiclate.com. I write things from time to time and publish stuff. So anyway, Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network, so check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of this conversation, both here in the Zoom meeting and the YouTube, and everyone for your input. I love it. It's great. I want to thank everyone involved in making Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology, and to choose not to have AI active on our desktops. That's huge. Linux truly puts personal back in a personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time, see yous.
Bye.